I got to say, I am working with one of the most inspirational companies that I've been involved with for most of my life, and X-Team is one of them. It is, for the last year I've been working with X-Team. I started with them earlier last year, but I met the Chief Operating Officer and the Head of Sales about 5 years ago at a conference in Hong Kong, and that was the start of a very exciting journey. It's now rolling forward 1 year. I'm working with X-Team still, and I'm loving the fact that I have this flexibility and freedom that you just heard about in this video. And that was Jason Silva. Jason's actually one of the presenters on the Discovery Channel, and he presents about things that inspire, things that are cutting edge in terms of psychology, sociology, and even the new ways of thinking, you might say, about the world and what's possible. And so today's actually evolved from me speaking to something even more special for me as well. I want to actually invite the CEO, the founder of X-Team to stage, and what we'll do is turn it into a bit of a discussion, and then we'll open it up towards the end. Finn's going to open up for questions. So if you've got questions along the way, please use the Slido, and please put your hands together for Dave Rosen, founder of X-Team. So this is a pretty special thing, because I guess you don't... How often do you get on stage?
Yeah, this is probably a first, but okay. I heeded the call, Ben, and here I am. And thank you, everyone, for this opportunity.
Thank you. So maybe as a bit of a background, X-Team actually started almost 15 years ago here in Melbourne. And what I'd love to celebrate is the people, the ideas, and the innovations that have come from this place here that we're in now, to then take on and expand to around the world. So X-Team now is we've got developers in, over 40 countries, around 40 countries?
Yeah.
So 40 countries, we've got a footprint from something that pioneered the idea of remote working. And companies all around the world are very, very interested to understand how to do that, how to understand the culture that they need to develop, and also how to transition, or at least work with external groups like X-Team, where they can get the agility, they can get the talent, but I guess something that we can explore a bit more together and talk about how it is that X-Team not only has this sort of special energy and enthusiasm, but maybe we can relate it back to the topic too, and rhythm. So let's start out. Tell me a little bit about where did X-Team all begin back in the day?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess thinking of rhythm, it's natural to think of your heartbeat. And I think it's so critical, to step back and think when we think of remote is why remote? And the origin of X-Team was tied very strongly in a reason to be remote. Because remote working these days, it's more of a thing that we sometimes think of as a must-have benefit. It gives you that lifestyle, you can be flexible, work anywhere. It's a great perk, and it makes a lot of sense. You can hire people from anywhere, but to have a strong foundation to that is the why. And the vessel of X-Team really started out with that belief in the world as it is. Currently, so much of your life is dictated by where you are born. A child born in Australia, just by those boundaries, has so many different realities to the rest of the world. So back then, 15 years ago, I set out deliberately, steering a vessel, what can we do about this? And the original essence of X-Team was to deliberately grow a company where we had people from as many nations as possible.
Yeah.
And it's great to see more and more of the world now. Now remote's much more of a common thing, but that importance as humans, to really recognise that we're all humans no matter where we're from, is still just as critical. And I find a really great motivator for being remote. By going remote, you're actually being part of a very important movement that the world needs.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to say the experience since I've come on board is very much about people first. It's about no matter where they're from, no matter what culture, the diversity is not even spoken about because it's inherent in the business. It's inherent in the philosophy and the values that you've instigated from the start, I guess. Is that part of the intention as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's seen, that we're not a company, we're a community, and people come into that community and grow it out. So it's very much the approach with that is that we welcome people to journey with us as they go through that community and bring out the best within them. Very, very different to to a company perspective where it's often about sort of control and, getting people to the company objective, at the same time, we want to build that person as an individual.
I might actually just reach out to the audience now because I want to understand them and how they fit this story. So maybe we might see a show of hands. Who here is from an enterprise and works with an organisation, say more than 100 people, with a raise of hands? Okay, it's quite a few. So some big companies represented here. What about startups that might be 1 up to 5 people? Raise of hands. Okay, so startups well represented. And what about scale-ups, those companies that perhaps are well funded, already got some traction, making some money, but on that growth path? Good to see. All right, so we've got good representation here, probably all 3 different segments here. Yeah. Let's go to maybe some relevance to them. What's different about, say, an enterprise now starting to get into this space of trying to be more agile and to be more responsive to market opportunities versus, say, the startup that needs to do that in a very economical way as well? What's the experience you've had in across the teams and the projects that X Team have helped out with?
Yeah, one big thing, particularly for enterprises that maybe are getting into remote, or you have a cross blend of like on-site and remote, is to really realise that you don't want to isolate the remote workers. And even calling them remote workers can be damaging. So that if you're making a decision to truly make your community like one which embraces people from anywhere, you need to make sure that you've got the right sort of philosophies and systems and tools to back it, to make sure that everyone really can partake and be part of the company DNA.
So one of the things we do, which I think is quite interesting, is we've managed to bring experiences into the business. So how might a company that, for instance, an enterprise here in the audience, how would they think about being able to work, not necessarily, as you say, with remote workers, but rather create a whole new, environment where people are motivated to work on software development projects or design projects, creating new products?
Yeah.
How might they go about thinking and changing their culture to be able to move faster, innovate quicker, and literally jump ahead in the market?
So one of the metrics we used when we first started the company was we measured the number of virtual high fives that people were giving each other. So it was a way to sort of check in on how people are going, and a way to sort of, if someone wasn't getting high fives, pay attention there. But what that sort of developed into, well, what's the reason behind the high five? And it sort of came back to this experience idea, and that experiences are really the building blocks of life. It's the experiences that we share together as people that we look back on and remember, and are really valuable. So with our community, we really wanted to cultivate the experiences that the community has and share them, and that's a big challenge when you're thinking, how do you do that remotely? But we've set up a really good platform, basically where it's almost gamified, where people can do these experiences which really vary. Like, they're things from like go to the highest point in your city and take a photograph, or go and teach someone something new, or go and try like a pumpkin flavored beer. They have these experiences all remotely in their cities, but then they're sharing them back on the Slack community with photos, and that starts to create connection and meaning between people.
So I guess for the audience here, we're all, to a large degree, we're probably engaged in social media. We communicate and connect with people outside work environment, but in some ways, the experience you've created is to do that within and across the organisation, and borderless. You've actually taken out nations and taken out all of these borders. I've just arrived back from New York this morning, and I've had no end of trouble with the US visa system. I had to sleep on a bench in Frankfurt. In fact, my 2 of my 3 legs getting into the US I couldn't take because the visa wasn't processed in time. So as a physical sense, it's hard to move across countries, and it's actually harder and harder to travel. But I guess remote work does, in fact, overcome a lot of these boundaries that are just getting more and more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a real, it really lets you operate on a different mindset, being able to go physically to the place where, you're most inspired. And we've found that, naturally through that, a lot of the teams started to want to meet and work together as well. So another thing that we've done is that we have a roving hacker house. We call it the X Outpost, and they're usually like really cool Airbnbs all over the world. And it's an open invitation. So anyone within X team comes to these roving hacker houses and lives together for a couple of weeks. And a neat thing about that this year is they've become a lot more missional as well. So we've had one of these X Outposts in Egypt, and it was people were going there also with the intention of teaching people there to code. So things like that really help as well.
So that's actually a good point, I guess, from a rhythm, because it's probably quite hard for organisations that have an existing culture to do that and switch their existing team. But it's probably easier to reach out and create this blend of people that are probably used to a different type of rhythm, so that rhythm, in fact, gets infused from the outside in, and that the inside rhythm of a company that already exists gets infused into the team that is joining them. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, because for us, I guess, we don't, for example, tend to do things like time tracking. And that's a typical rhythm that a lot of traditional companies have. What were you working on? What did you do then? Sort of thing. But it's part of it to really empower people is to embrace some new beliefs of, well, that's not necessarily the path to productivity. So coming up with your own metrics that are going to let people in a remote environment have the benefit and also flourish.
And flourish is an interesting one. So what does that trajectory look like from the early days of X Team to now in terms of how the culture's evolved and how it supports the community of developers around the world?
Yeah, now we've created a program, we call it Unleash. We tie it in with the experiences, but where from the very first day when we're working with someone, we understand what their goals are. It could be going and speaking at an event like this. It could be, going skydiving or whatever it is. And we proactively help them in that journey. Mm-hmm. And yeah, to give back to them as well.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Amit reminded me earlier of the seasons, which Amit from our team oversees I guess from the revenue perspective, but he's very much part of the embedded culture as well, and I love his perspective on things. So when we were chatting this morning, he reminded me of how the seasons, the way in which we create a theme throughout the year helps unify us and bond through those themes. Do you maybe share a little bit about that?
We use Slack as a tool, but we've built our own platform on top of that, which provides a lot of the sort of the community aspects and values on it. And part of that is that we run seasons, much like a TV show, but also recognizing that as people, like we go through different seasons in life. So what a season looks like is that, say now, like we're entering a new season for this year, and the theme's going to be new worlds. So there's sort of a video that goes out about that, and it creates like a fireplace to everyone to get around that, as a community, like we're really going to explore this concept of new worlds, and we create experiences to go around that and theme the whole thing. But as people are working with X Team, like they experience different seasons.
Nice.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that I think would be really valuable for the audience to hear, and again, we're talking about, I guess, something that's developed over 15 years now with the organisation, the vision that you've had, turning into this incredible culture. So I'd like to share as much value as possible and insight. But one of the things that has blown me away in the organisation, and both times that we've done it, we call them appreciation bomb.
Yes. Yeah.
So I've happened to be in an airport both times that the appreciation bombs happen. So for 24 hours, it's this continual stream of people appreciating all of the people that they've worked with and anyone in X Team or outside that has contributed towards them, the projects, the success, overcoming challenges, whatever it might be. And I've been in the airport, but not being able to say it, being conscious that if I said what it is, I'd probably be arrested and thrown in jail. But Tell us about the appreciation bond, what it is, and how that came about as well, because it's quite phenomenal.
Yeah, it's sort of like an extension of the high fives, like a way, you know, at a time it was mega fives, and just really the importance of thankfulness. And the X in the X team, it's actually representing two lines. You know, there's the line going down, which is sort of being thankful and having a thankful heart, and the line going up is you know, looking to, well, how can I serve in this moment? So those two little culture pieces stand as a really simple representation of, hey, this is what we're about, this is what our community is about, and building things on top of that.
Nice.
Yeah, and building some incredible things too, like the Super Bowl that was just on, the technology that streamed that thing, that was X Team. You know, we work with Riot Games, who have an e-commerce platform that's has more transaction than Amazon, and we do that. So we're doing some incredible things, but that's only because like we have such incredible people, and we you know, really look after them.
Yeah, nice one. So it's a bit of background about X Team, but more importantly, I just wanted to share with you, I guess, some of the amazing and visionary ideas about what remote might be all those years ago, and now to still see and know and understand some of these things that could help you potentially, whether you're a startup, a solopreneur, building a team, scaling up, or an enterprise looking to try and work at, you know, developing new products, services through technology, but doing it in a very agile way.